You're on now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Bittiker. I'm back for another part of our series here. We're covering some other topics today. One of the things I ran across was some information, and you get one of these old bromides, which is that you usually get somebody who's talking about something which they don't really know a lot about. You assume that medical doctors know a lot about nutrition, when the truth of the matter is they have almost no training in it at all. I see this all the time in my practice. I'll see a patient come in with symptoms of, say, scurvy. And of course, scurvy is not supposed to be able to exist here in America, but it does. Symptoms can include bleeding gums, bruising easily, depressed immune system, depression, and some other conditions, connective tissue disorders of joint aches and pains and things like that. I do a test on the patient, give them vitamin C, this clears up. The doctor was trained to spot scurvy, but didn't think he would see it, so he wasn't really looking for it. So he was treating something with, say, antibiotics or something like that. We see this with osteoporosis, which is the thinning of the bones, so to speak. A lot of times that's nothing to do other than just to a chronic vitamin D deficiency over a long time. For years and years and years of not enough vitamin D, not enough calcium is mobilized in the body, get osteoporosis. So that's what we're seeing. Not all conditions, but I'm just saying a significant part are caused by nutritional deficiencies. And that brings to mind the thing that we're told sometimes, which is this: the doctor will tell you that you're taking vitamins, you're wasting your time, you just got expensive urine. That's stupid. You know, there's no research that backs this up. In fact, some vitamins can be dangerous if you get too much of them. And so, in other words, if you look at who paid for that research, you see it was a drug company. Why would a drug company pay for research on vitamins? Well, there's a reason: because they don't want you to consume them. Because more money you spend on vitamins, the less sick you become, and the less you're going to spend on drugs. It's just that simple. It's competitive in nature. Let me give you some research here that shows you how what a dead end, literally, this type of thinking is. You know, in America, we rank something like 41st in the world in longevity, which is just absolutely absurd when you consider that we spend more money. And there's some other studies say we're 19th to 20th. You think you get a little closer to that, but we're nowhere near the top. And yet we're top in number one thing is we spend more money on healthcare than anybody else. Nobody's even close, except maybe Canada, which I think is like half of what we spend. But they're the only ones that come close. So we have a healthcare system that's extremely expensive, that bankrupts people. In fact, I think 60% of all bankruptcies occur because of an unexpected illness resulting in unexpected medical expenses that just simply wipe people out. And 60% of the people that do get wiped out, they had health insurance. So it doesn't necessarily save you from that, even if you have health insurance. So the advice here is don't get sick. Well, let me show you how, with this type of thinking, the problem it brings on. Here's a study. Pulled this off of the Drudge Report. American seniors are sicker than global peers. You can go there and check it out for yourself. These are a series of studies comparing Americans to a bunch of other countries. We rank about 10th in the world as far as the health of our so-called seniors. That's 65 and up. By the way, that would be me. More than 1 in 3 older Americans, 36%, having 3 or more chronic conditions. The typical American my age takes about 6 or 7 drugs. I don't take any at all. I take a lot of vitamins, though. One of the healthiest of these nations was New Zealand, with only 13% of the older people reporting the same. In other words, their level of chronic disease was 1/3 ours, okay? And their healthcare costs are much, much lower than ours. Nearly 1 in 4 older Americans report that in the past year they had not visited a doctor when they were sick. They had skipped recommended tests or treatment and hadn't filled a prescription or had skipped medication doses, all because of the cost. That's the point. We end up with a system here. The U.S. outlying out of cost, it averages over $2,000 for an American, and in other countries it's less than 1/3 of that, less than half of that. Okay? So what are the reasons for this? Well, we have a healthcare system. We're in the middle of trying to reset this thing, but I don't know what's going to happen. All I can tell you is I'm going to show you how to not get sick in the first place and the advantages and ways to do it. But Medicare, one of the reasons Medicare deductibles and co-payments compared to health insurance plans are much higher. Older Americans pay a far higher amount for prescription drugs. I've always been amazed that a drug is manufactured here in America. You go to Canada, you can buy it in a pharmacy there for 1/4 what it costs here. You go to Mexico, you buy the same drug for maybe 1/5 what it costs here. But it's manufactured in America. How can these drug companies export it to other countries and sell it for a profit? Because they're obviously making money. Well, we've got a system where we've got markups on drugs are typically run 1,000, 2,000, 3,000%. If you did the same thing with vitamins, that would mean a bottle of multivitamins like this could run you around $500. That's crazy. There's nowhere near that kind of a markup of supplements, so it's just a nutty system. Also, we find out one more thing that America leads the world in is that's obesity. We are way ahead of everybody else, and that's a biggie. You eliminate that one problem, you knock out 70-80% of the major problems that lead to chronic diseases in people as they get older. Now, let me tell you some stuff. And it never ceases to amaze me is that when I mention stuff like this, I've even had medical doctors call me up on the radio program and try and trap me into saying, well, you don't have any research to back that up. And all I can counter with is, I do have the research, it's just that you're not aware of it. You haven't done your homework. I have done my homework on this, and I can show you the sources of this, and that's how you can differentiate the difference between fake news, or what I like to prefer to call propaganda, or disinformation, and the real stuff. The way you can do it is by looking for sources, the original sources of research on this, and checking them out, and seeing who paid for that research, and then you can find out what the truth is. Here's the truth. Now, I'm going to quote you a study. And there's multiple other studies besides this. I'm going to start off with one that was done a while ago. It was done by C. Edith Weir, PhD. The report is entitled Human Nutrition Report Number 2, Benefits from Nutrition Research. It was done for the United States Department of Agriculture. Millions of dollars spent on this study. Your tax dollars at work. Accepted by the government standards. Peer reviewed, the whole bit. And there's multiple other studies that showed even better results than this. And it was done in 1971. And what they basically did was they wanted to know what would happen if you took Americans and you brought their dietary consumption of vitamins and minerals up to the minimum daily allowance. That's the minimum it takes for overt symptoms of nutritional deficiencies to occur. Not the recommended daily allowance, which is somewhat higher, or what I would recommend, the optimal dose, the one that gives you the best possible chances to live a long and healthy life. Just the minimum, the absolute minimum, okay? Now, I'll give you an example. 25 to 50 milligrams of vitamin C per day will prevent you from having bleeding gums and bruising easily. But when you get it up to 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day, all of a sudden your incidence of colds and flus and infectious diseases drop off 80%. Not bad, huh? So you see that there's a difference between minimal and optimal. Now, here's some examples. Heart and vascularity diseases could be reduced 25%. Right across the board. Heart attacks and strokes down 25%. Other studies show more than that. Respiratory and infectious diseases, 20% fewer incidents. All right, you know that it's the third or fourth leading cause of death is upper respiratory infections, pneumonia, and things like that. Mental health, 10% fewer disabilities. Hoffer and Osman and Pfeiffer did research, and you can go to orthomolecular.org website, and you can see research there on the use of particularly the B complex, high levels of niacinamide and niacin to treat schizophrenia. I've actually seen it completely reverse schizophrenia in some patients. They say you could reduce it by 50%. This study said 10%. So you understand, this is a conservative study. Infant mortality and reproduction, 50% fewer deaths. I mentioned earlier about the research done that was first of all done back in the 1930s on folate, or folic acid, prevention of neural tube defects and reduction in IQs in infants born to mothers who were deficient in these particular type of the B complex. Well, they mentioned a 50% fewer deaths. That's infants that are born dead, other infants that are born with severe deformities, have a 50% reduction. Some studies show that you can get an 80% reduction by adequate supplementation of the mothers before they get pregnant. Early aging and lifespan, 10 million people without impairments. Arthritis, 8 million people relieved of afflictions. Yes, a lot of times your mineral deficiencies may lead to chronic arthritis and or vitamin C deficiency, which leads to a destruction of the cartilage. Dental health, 50% reduction in incidence and severity and expenditures. Most people develop gum disease because of a chronic vitamin C deficiency. Diabetes and carbohydrate disorders, 50% of the cases avoided or improved. That's diet and nutritional supplementation. 50%. You understand that diabetes is becoming one of the leading contributors to bad health here in America. Osteoporosis, a 75% reduction is what this study says here about vitamin D. Obesity, an 80% reduction in incidence. You know, one of the reasons why people could overconsume carbohydrates and other foods is because their diet is deficient in vitamins and minerals. And when you bring those minerals up and the vitamins up to a natural level, the body senses this and no longer drives the hunger. So your hunger levels come down. I've had this with people that say, you know, I take a multivitamin like this and I'm not as hungry. Why? Because your body says, okay, you got enough vitamins. You don't need any more. Alcoholism, 33% reduction. You know, you can reduce the incidence of cirrhosis of the liver by having your hardcore drinkers. I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'm saying if you're going to drink, take a B complex along with it, and you reduce your likelihood of having cirrhosis of the liver and dying from it by about 1/3. Not bad, huh? Eyesight, 20% fewer people blind or without corrective lenses. Allergies, 20% fewer there too. Digestive, 25% fewer conditions like irritable bowel syndrome. Kidney and urinary conditions, 20% reduction in the deaths from kidney failure. Again, that's commonly a B complex deficiency because when you take the B6, it forms pyridoxic acid, which causes your body to excrete oxalates, which is what damages the kidneys over a period of time. So if you're taking enough B complex, you don't get kidney stones and don't get kidney damage. Muscular disorders, 10% reduction in cases like that. Improved worker efficiency, improved growth and development, and also improved IQ. Again, supplementing the mother and the father, I might add, is shown to increase IQ by a significant amount. So there's some of the information that you got that you can do. And it's one of the reasons why we recommend our patients a simple thing like this, Nutrient 950, which is a multivitamin made by Pure Caps. Something that simple. If you're not going to do anything else, take a multivitamin. Yeah, even a Flintstones or something like that, better than nothing, although those synthetic ones leave a lot to be desired. They're not the methyl forms like this, but do something. My point is, you don't have to wait for this condition to happen. You see the contributions to obesity and the diet. You put the two together, and you're going to dramatically decrease the likelihood of you having any chronic diseases, or you're going to postpone them by a lot. So it does you a lot of benefits there. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching. I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy myself. If you want to, you can call the 800-326-5838 number and ask a question. You can go to our website, sbittiker, S-B-I-T-T.
No.
What?
That's the email address.
Email. sbittiker, S-B-I-T-T-I-K-E-R at AOL.com. You can go to our website, naturalhealthandyou.com, and look at our videos that I did on various conditions and also our nutritional supplements there. If you want to buy the vitamins, you can. And also, if you got a friend and you like what you see here, share it with your friends. And if you, as I said, if you got a question, call in, ask a question, and I'll handle it just like I did this one.
And we'll be back again on Monday.
Back again on Monday. Have a good Thanksgiving.